Hi guys, Tech here, and welcome back to yet another build guide. This is going to be the generic lightning skills build guide. The reason why I am leaving this one generic and there won't be test footage on this particular one is because we're mainly going to be using this new skill, which is Galvanic Field. It puts a bubble, and as long as you are able to shock, it basically will chain kill stuff with inside the bubble. And so the whole theory craft is basically using that as the pseudo clear speed, is using the field. And for your single target, either using something like Crackling Lance or Arc predominantly, maybe even Stormcall, to have your single target damage and basically let that carry you through. So that's kind of where we're going to be going with this one. This is going to be a Trickster build. Just in case you didn't watch the last video, kind of what we are doing here is the reason we are going Trickster. I'm going to move me up for just a second while I go over this with you. So we are going to be getting one step ahead, which is just super powerful. It gives you a very good movement ability and casting ability and reduces enemies' threshold. So it's overall very, very strong. This will stop things like freeze and chill, stun. It will stop the stupid vines that grab you around your ankles and like lock you in place. It will stop all that so you don't have to worry about anything. It also, because this is going to be a CI character, gives us the very powerful Soul Drinker, which basically gives us Slayer Overleach, but for Energy Shield, which is extremely powerful. Then we're going to go Escape Artist and Spellbreaker. Escape Artist and Spellbreaker give you a really cool interaction that you don't get as much in hybrid characters as you do in CI characters. And we'll kind of jump right into kind of the path of building on this one, since it is going to be more the path of building than the actual like gameplay footage this time around, because this is going to be with brand new skills, so I obviously can't test those until they are present. So kind of the idea here is we're going to level as like a hybrid life character. Okay, so we're going to come up here, we're going to get some life nodes, we're going to get a bunch of crit stuff, some more life nodes, a bunch of lightning nodes, and some spell suppression. And then we're going to pick up one step ahead. After we do that, we're going to go on to our second lab, get more lightning nodes, some power charge stuff, some life stuff, some cast speed, and more lightning stuff. After that, we're going to go into lab 3, where we're going to go start heading down this right hand side of the tree. We're going to get Ghost Dance and Soul Thief. Now, if you have a very strong energy shield at this point, like you just dropped a very good gear, you can go ahead and come over here and get Wicked Ward. We're going to get it later. But if you have really good ES, by the time you get Spellbreaker, pick up Wicked Ward. I'll cover it more later, but it's just very handy once you have this and this together. They combo very nicely. Then you're likely at that point going to swap over to either this build, which is like the more hybrid lightning build, or if you've been getting CI gear as you go along and are kind of ready for the switch over, you're going to kind of look at something like this, obviously without the cluster jewels. That will come much later in development. The reason how this interaction works. So anytime any enemy casts a spell, as long as you have a 100% chance to suppress spell damage, and you can check that chance right here. My number right now is at 94 in leveling gear. If I go to mid-tier gear, it's overcapped. If I go into CI gear, it's overcapped. But for leveling gear, while we're in blues, we don't have 100%, which is normal. Once we can hit this 100% cap, we're going to want to instantly, as long as we have Spellbreaker, pick up Wicked Ward. The reason behind that is it starts your energy shield recharge. What Wicked Ward says is that it can't be interrupted once it starts, and it has a lower recovery rate. I'm hoping y'all are seeing the combo here. Basically, you have Vault Discipline all the time between these two, as long as a spell is out in the air. Then, because we also have this, which just gives us a flat 50 ES when we suppress spell damage, it should basically carry us and self-sustain us with just these things. Now, what Ghost Dance does, which is really, really cool, is if we do happen to get hit, we lose a Ghost Shroud and we recover ES equal to 3% of our evasion rating. You should have more evasion rating than Energy Shield by a very substantial amount, so you should recover a big chunk of your ES anytime that happens, and that's an instant recovery. Then we have great things like Soul Thief, which gives us extra Energy Shield on kill, which will combo with Soul Drinker once we get that. Basically, the idea here is that we are going to use lightning skills. We're going to use Discipline and Grace as our main auras, and then we're going to use both Herald of Ice as well as Herald of Thunder, and that is why we have Self-Control and Sublime Form and Presage all going on here, is so we can run all of that together. And we're going to use all that to have this very, very lovely thing where not only are we shocking everything, except for what's in Galvanic Field, we're also freezing everything or chilling everything. And then we're causing shatter explosions. And those shatters are more impactful because they're ignited, and then they deal more damage because they're chilled. So it's this great like double way of dipping your damage sources. Now with this one, I didn't do the same thing if you watch the previous build on Blade Vortex that I did on that one, where I included all the trees in one. Blade Vortex is going to be the only one that has all the trees in one, because that is basically it's easier to do it this way than it is to go in and redo builds, because if I do it that way, I have to have like 3 separate notes and 3 separate in-depth skills, where I can kind of put a base shell in one of them, and then in the other 2, I'm going to have to kind of tailor off. So, kind of the idea here is I'm assuming I'm going to probably do Arcmain. I may not. I may try. I may really like Crackling Lance. One thing to note is this Intensify is only good if you are going Crackling Lance. If you are not going Crackling Lance, you want to, if you're going Unleash, use Unleash. Basically, none of the others are worth it. So if you don't get that, if you're not going to use Unleash or Intensify, just don't pick up either of these, because this is the only other one is the final repeat. Again, if you're not going to have a repeat, don't take this one. But I am planning on having Intensify and repeats, so we're going on with that. So here is the base kind of Crackling Lance that I'm thinking of. I may not want to use Onslaught here. I may use something else, but I kind of think this is the route I want to go. Now, if I get like Onslaught boots or something along those lines, I could always change that to maybe Cull. The other one that might be worth it is Hypothermia, or also Energy Leech could also be pretty good. And you can always go with faster casting or Spell Echo as well. Kind of any of those will work here. We may also need to use Overshock. I'm not sure how useful that will be as of yet. We'll kind of have to play that one by ear. Most likely, I'm going to be league starting this, the Lightning version. So if I figure out something isn't working or whatever, I'll tinker with it till I get it working. Same thing, just an arc kind of is leveling. So these are in order of importance. You don't want volley and lesser multiple projectiles. You want one or the other. But some people like to use lesser multiple projectiles once they get to 8. I normally just use volley the whole time. Frostbomb, then at level 12, we're going to want to switch over to arc. You do want to put cold damage over lightning damage. The reason behind this is it gives us freezes and chills. Then at 16, and if you notice there's a level 12 support, which should be right under there. Easy fix. We're going to have Orb of Storms, increase critical strikes, eventually Culling Strike and Power Charge on crit, you get both of these in Act 2. So you'll just have these two together at the very beginning. All these are available by the time you get art. Then at 16, we're going to put on both Heralds, and we're going to run those until 24. At 24, we're going to have to make a decision. If we need more defenses, we're going to run both of these. If we don't need more defenses because we're just destroying screens, then we're going to just leave these off until we need more defenses. At level 28, I'm going to try this particular Crackling Lance setup. Now, what this one does is this gives us Ice Bite as well as Innervate. So we get extra shock and we get extra freeze. Both of those are very, very useful, especially if we have both the Heralds going. And I'm going to try it out with Intensify. If this seems to be working, why are those two not showing up? Because most likely you're not going to have these. You're not going to have enough links to use all 6 of them. That's why I have those turned off. So when you get extra room, I would add an Ice Bite first, then Innervate. And then here is our end game auras. You do want the Vol versions of both of these. They are both very, very useful. Vol Discipline, not quite so much, but it's still useful. As far as our leveling setup, we have our leveling gear, our mid-tier gear, and like our early CI gear. This isn't like crazy ES. You can get much higher numbers than this. Well, it also helps. Yeah, no, I'm on the CI tree. You can get much better gear than this, but this is kind of like starter stuff to kind of look for. The other thing is the reason I picked Crusader rings here, you may not have access to Crusader rings early on. It's not a big deal if you don't. Okay, this is just stuff to look for when you can get it, because you do want to get that increased maximum ES plus flat ES rings if you can. You also want the 1 to 8 lightning damage per power charge if you can, because we are going to be running 5 power charges. And then also the Crusader version of this gives us remove shock on flask effect, which is really nice, extra energy shield recovery rate, increased percent as well as flat. ES, all those things are nice. Same thing here, like double ES plus the lightning, double crit, just ES and some res. Just ES and some res. This has power charge on crit. If you can get that on a chess piece mod with pretty decent ES, go for it. If you can't get that mod, it's not the end of the world. It's fine. You will just lose out on the possibility of getting increased int and the power charge on crit. If you don't have power charge on crit, that's perfectly fine. Then, just kind of random gear. Again, most of this stuff isn't too crazy. I try to be like fairly reasonable with this stuff. The other thing is, here's my Galvanic Field theory. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try it out first with increased area of effect, Ice Bite, and Arcane Surge. The reason for Ice Bite is if I can cause Galvanic Field because it cannot shock, but I can cause it to freeze stuff, I'm omega happy, because then it can Herald Shatter for me. If that doesn't work, or Arcane Surge doesn't work, or Increased AoE doesn't work, if any of these don't work, here is kind of my next things to try out. So Efficacy, Spell Cascade, Intensify, and Elemental Proliferation. If these work, I'm probably going to leave it kind of just as is. If they don't, I'll probably swap some of this around. Also, if you have a lot of cast speed, Stormcall might actually be better than Crackling Lance or Arc. If both of those, if all 3 of those are bad for whatever reason, you can also go down to Spark. If you do go to Spark, you are going to want to pick up Piercing Shots as well as Split Shot, and you can pick whatever, it doesn't matter. But yeah, so you can go Piercing Shots and Split Shot, because you want to have as many things on screen as humanly possible if you're going to go Spark. So just know you're going to have to pull out of something to do that. The upgrade stuff is still pretty simple. Have a list of all the vendor recipes. Damage, like kind of what rolls to look for. Survivability stuff. Craft of Exile website link. Yeah, again, Hunter Chest with spell crit and life is just double life is really, really good if you go hybrid. Tailwind and elusive boots are nice, but not needed. The curse on hit gloves, like Gentle Touch, or rings with either enfeebled temp chains or conductivity. You want at least one of these to be conductivity and one of these to be temp chains if you can. If you get both of those, go ahead and get Whispers of Doom. If you don't have both of those, then just keep the one curse until you do get both of those. Storm Secret and Call of the Brotherhood. Neither are mandatory. However, Call of the Brotherhood has a really cool interaction for us, because what Call of the Brotherhood does is it lets us convert a very high percentage of our lightning damage into cold damage. The reason that this is useful is we don't want a full convert. We just would like Call of the Brotherhood. You get that from Snowstorm. You get some extra cold there. But what Call of the Brotherhood does is lets us convert part of our lightning damage into cold damage. So it just gives us better freezes and chills. That, coupled with our lightning damage, should still be high enough and shocking at high enough of a rate where you should still be applying max shock effect, which instead of being 60 would be 75, which is pretty big. So they're nice, they're not needed. Storm Secret just makes your Herald of Thunder significantly better and clear significantly better. Be careful, if these are super expensive, if any of the uniques I'm recommending are just really, really, really expensive, I would probably wait on them. They will probably come down in price. They're not necessary for the build to work. They're just kind of nice to have. Better Trade API, here's a link to it. Now the code for the Better Trade is finally up, so I can show you that. So you're going to copy this big old long thing, and don't just stop here. You got to go over and 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 go over. Once you do, you're going to get to this screen. I didn't get to show this on the previous one. So you're going to click Import Filter. You're going to paste that big old huge long code. It's going to say Trick Lightning, 16 bookmarks. You're going to hit save, and it's going to pop up this exact thing. Now you'll notice there's a bunch of stuff kind of combined together in here. So we have a one-hander for early, a one-hander for mid, and a one-hander for late. This is more like, if you look at the filter, this is more stuff you're going to craft yourself. When you get to this late part, it's going to be very expensive to find one that someone else made. You're going to kind of have to craft this yourself, probably, for most people, unless you're just very, very, very rich. Then there's the any life in 2 res, any life in 3 res. How this works for these, let's say that you want to focus only on daggers. You can say any dagger or any rune dagger. If you want to focus on a claw, just click claw. You can also just type it in here. Same thing works with these any's. Their setup is just any, but if you hit show filter and then click here, you can type in whatever piece of gear you need. It will only save it for that search. If you click the thing over here, it will be right back to any. The reason why I use any is it just makes it very easy if you need one piece of gear, or when you get to like end game and you're trying to switch over. Like, let's say you've got a good bit of currency while leveling for whatever reason, like you drop 2 divines or whatever, because those are going to be astronomical. And you have a whole bunch of currency sitting there and you're like, oh, what do I do with all this currency? Oh, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and get some of my CI gear. And so you go ahead and click on any's for CI gear, and that will help you get geared up for mapping or switching over. Don't feel pressured into switching over to CI really early. I normally do, but I kind of know what I'm doing with crafting, which helps a lot in that criteria. I also just have some generic unique stuff that's pretty useful. Again, just be cautious of prices. If prices are really high, just know that prices are really high and you should probably wait. If prices are low, then prices are low, right? And it's fine. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind. The other thing is, since I'm showing you this and this filter happened when there is no league, just know that this may have to be switched right here from standard to Lake of Kalandra standard, or softcore, or League softcore, whatever thing they want to put here. So just know you may need to change this right here. I hope this answers all your questions about how to league start with a Lightning Trickster for 3.19 Lake of Kalandra. If you do have any questions, feel free to comment them in the section down below. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, Exiles, and stay sane in Rayclast.